Hello everyone, welcome to my review of the Razor Crest. This is set 75292 with 1023 pieces, rated for ages 10 and up. This is the part of the Mandalorian line, as we can see by the Mandalorian text down at the bottom, and also by his head being represented over in the corner. Now, this set comes with the child, the Mandalorian, Grief Karga, IG-11, and a lovely Scout Trooper redesign, which is absolutely fantastic. If we spin the box around, as I'm going pretty quickly here, with this, as I don't want this to go on for 50 hours, we can see the Razor Crest itself with the folding out panels. We can see the child over inside there with the two carbonite little things. Well, at least one of them in there. With the other one out on the side, we can see the Scout Troopers just walking up having a gunfight with IG-11. Pretty standard, Scout Troopers, they're going around making up fights that they can't necessarily win. But, they look good doing it, so, you can't really complain too much there. We've got the weapon compartment, as can be seen over here. I believe, might need to tilt the camera down. Weapons compartment over there behind the cockpit. You got yourself the little bit of an escape pod. You've got yourself the sleeping quarters in this one. You've got yourself the spring-loaded shooters. Not spring-loaded shooters, spring-loaded shooters. I don't know. I was getting confused with the flick-fire missiles there. And then also some extra stud shooter storage. Let's start off with the Scout Trooper, which in my opinion is probably the best looking figure, although the child is probably the most recognizable and probably most wanted figure from the set. Now that we've got the child in quite a few sets, I would definitely say that the Scout Trooper is definitely one of the highlights of the set, considering the torso and leg print just looks so absolutely fantastic with all the detail. And looking back, this is a great improvement from the old Scout Trooper, which, let's face it, wasn't really the best quality. And although it worked fantastically for then, and would have continued to look decent for this time, the redesign just makes it look worse than it did previously. Which I think is a step up, considering this is just absolutely fantastic. And I wish it was in more sets. But, to get on with the detail, it does have a lot of facial detail as well, as can be seen with the breather and the Scout. If I take out the helmet, we can see the standard looking-ish face. It's not the angry clone face that we have seen for time and time again, because recently they switched over to more expressive faces, although they are still semi the same, because you never really do see the face. It's great that it's not always just angry clone, grr, angry, and so on and so forth. But the back, you can see his little backpack, which is nice, the continuation of the belt. The solid black arms, I think, really do add to this character, although we would see more white there, considering it would just be like the black undergarment that what they're wearing to which is more clothing than armor. So unfortunate, but it looks good, so can't complain on that department. I'm going to zoom a bit close to the child so that you can see all the details. So if it looks a bit fuzzy, that's why. But we can see a little bit of that black detailing that you get on his torso to kind of signify the little robes that he's wearing, because he does have those little fluffy robes there. Now, you can't really move the arms as they are a part of the mold, because it is two pieces physically, but it is a baby minifigure, which is well suited for the child. It is a child after all, even though it is 50 years old. But Grogu here, he has a bit of detail. You can see, I don't know if you can really tell on camera, but he does have a little bit of wrinkle in his head, and since it is a rubber piece, you can semi-bend the ear a little bit, so there's that. The eyes, I've seen that they can be misprinted a bit, because I know that this is my better looking one, which has the eyes looking full, but you can have a little bit of issue with the printing that comes for the eyes. But solid figure nonetheless. You can't disagree that this is a nice minifigure to have. A little overrated in my opinion, but for good reason. So, it's a good figure that works. Next up, we can deal with the Mandalorian. The reason I haven't really shown the weapons is because weapons, they're I can show them, but I might as well leave it until later when we're testing out the storage feature. So here we have Mando in his non-Beskar armor, so a little bit less shiny. compared to his Beskar version, which looks way better. But you know, the standard version is a little bit more, is a little rarer now, in some degree, because they don't really make him as much, because he came out in the ATST and the Razor Crest. I think that's it. So, you know, less option to get him, because people thought Cara Dune would be rare. A lot of people bought the ATST, and Razor Crest is a phenomenal set, so a lot of people bought that. So, semi-rare, you could put it, but he's got some great brown chest detailing on his torso there, with a bit of tan, which contrasts nicely. I don't really enjoy this figure. Like, I think it's a great representation, but personally not my favorite. There's no arm printing like on the Beskar Mando, and the leg printing, although good, because this is like the non-Beskar Mando, I don't really appreciate it as much, because like he didn't have this style of armor for very long. I think it was like episode 3 that he got it changed after dealing with the Mudhorns, so not really the most memorable thing. Now, he does have a black head, obviously, because they still, to this day, haven't done that. But on the back, I feel like the back print itself is actually very nice. Even though I don't really like the front of it, I think the back of it looks decently well, because, like, primarily it's it. That's, like, a given, because you've got the cape. But I think the execution of the back looks the same as the front, but I feel like the front just doesn't really sit well with me. Not to say that I don't necessarily like that version of Mando, but, like, I don't know, something just isn't right with it. But if we move on to Greef Karga, which is great figure, have to say. Really outdid themselves with the newer version, have to say. Prefer this 100%. But if we're talking strictly about this version, I think it's done well. You know, you've just got the torso printing, which is unfortunate because, well, that could have gone a long way to get that little bit of the orangish red down over to the legs, but, you know, what can you really do? He's got a bit of detail there, little bit of detail on the back, but it's, like, so simple and, like, non-existent that you can really miss it. So, you know, good character, but, like, really was done dirty in this set. Now, the back of the face also looks pretty good, I have to say, but, like, really, if you look at the newer version and how much more detail is on that, they actually went and did some leg printing. It's got a very nice torso print, and even some, well, to be fair, it's the exact same back print, just different color. I think actually this one has a bit more in the corner there for printing, so really they didn't do that much for the back, but you know, the front really makes up for it, and I feel like this blend of colors is much nicer than this. So, I'm going to say Greef Karga looks good enough in this set, but like the new one is really good. This is just a droid. I'm going to be pretty simple with this one. You know, standard droid joints and mechanics. The only difference is that instead of a regular droid head, he does have that cylindrical piece which is printed, which is very nice, and he's also got a clip on the back. I don't really like dealing with droids because, you know, I like getting them in a set sometimes, but, you know, working with them in a review where I have to sometimes present, like, what they can do is a bit annoying, but, you know, there it is. It's droid. What can I really say about it? With the minifigs out of the way on the box, we can finally get started with the Razor Crest itself. Now, I am going to try and make some space by moving this a bit back, but we can see, you know, you've got the front as we've seen in the box. It kind of goes smoothly back to the end, and then, you know, it just has a sharp turn over in the back, but, you know, it looks very good and is very functional. Now, I am going to take off the engines after showing you them because they're a bit big, and it might help if we don't have them. You know, it's got the standard engine shape with a bit of a lackluster back, I have to say. This is very simplistic. You do have this large sticker here, though, which adds a bunch of detail. It is a bit annoying to put on, especially since you have two of them. But, you know, you also have this nice, like, tire piece, which kind of just smooths it all together. But it looks still really good without the engines. And so this is what you're going to see until basically the end, because the engines are the last thing, or before last thing that you build, because this has been a while since I have built this. But you get the point. This is what it's going to look like for a while. The escape pod itself is very simple. You've got a little bit of engines on the back, but it's nothing major. You can fit one minifigure in there, which is nice, or you can fit a minifigure and the child. So that's kind of nice. It goes here up at the top, so it does look a bit empty without it, but you know, it still looks pretty good. If we go over, you know, I probably should have kept it like this since I want to go through the top. You have a seat for two minifigures and the child, because you can kind of put him on someone's hand and kind of keep it there. Or you can just give him an entire seat. But here's the weapons clip that I was talking about, which is pretty nice because, well, if I can grab a weapon, I probably should have paused it and then grabbed a weapon, but you get the point. Alright, so you can have larger weapons. Now this one is a bit large, but you can generally put like some larger weapons. Now it is a bit difficult, I will say, if you're doing this quite a few times. Now I haven't done this in a little bit, but there you go. It seals away the weapon. It doesn't really interfere over here, which is nice. So, you know, weapon stays there. There's clips for it. Very nice, very fancy. You know, it works. That's the important part, that it works. Now, this is the side that has the flick fire missile storage. If I just take one out and show you. The annoying part is that these drop down because of how they're fired. They drop down, so bit unfortunate unless you have the flick fire missiles loaded. So that's a thing. The storage is quite easy to use, even for someone with a bit larger fingers, you know. Now that door is, these doors are probably the most annoying just because of how close those have to be. And I have seen that this area is a bit of an issue sometimes because the clips do fall off. But for the most part, you're going to have a good time. And it might be a little bit difficult getting to the cargo bay, but you get the picture. So what you can do with that is you can take these two carbonite statues, one of them being of more of a person and the other one being more of an alien, which you can see in the ATST. So you can kind of see some crossover between the sets, but in order to make the most of those, you are going to have to flip it around. There's the bed area, pretty easy to use. And then you've got some like sticker detailing over there. You can see that looks kind of like a calendar of sorts in there and some like piping. But you get the picture. If I move this out, which is a little bit difficult at times, but we can see the little bit of a storage for these guys, which they go in generally easily. You might get a bit of clippage over at the top because of how compact this is in reality. It's a good set and the exterior looks really good, but accessing the interior as this is a ship becomes a little bit difficult, especially since you do have to have these Technic supports and you can't really take off the top. So unfortunate, but you know, you do have this back dock area, so you have a lot of parts that can be taken off easily to access the interior, which is nice. If I close it back up, it's really simple. Even if you take it apart like without physically breaking it, it only takes a few realistic seconds to put it back. You can be quick about it, you can be slow about it, but it is really easy to put back, which is the nice thing about this set. And it is very durable, I would say. Now, that doesn't mean that you want to go ahead and throw it, but for the most part, it's structurally sound, so it won't really break on you if it's in your hand. It is a bit heavy, I will say, but so I wouldn't suggest picking it up like I have right now, because like I have a feeling that that will probably snap a few pieces, but like it was holding on there. So although I wouldn't recommend doing that, it is structurally sound, as can be seen by me just holding it there. So I think that should cover it, because that goes over basically everything, like 99%. Now you've got these like cannons and like stuff. It goes over everything but really the fine details of the set, like maybe these like grill marks and these canons themselves, but I think this is a good job that anybody who's interested in the set or is thinking about picking this up for someone knows at least enough so that if they wanted to buy it, they could decide for themselves. And so what I would say to that is I would say pick it up. It has gone on sale on multiple occasions, so it's definitely a set that is both popular, if you don't already have it, and is a great pickup because of the building experience and because of what you get in the set. Now, there are better sets depending on who you are, but if you're a fan of The Mandalorian, this is a pretty decent set, I have to say. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.